Hello and welcome to A Russell Read. Today we have Blood Promise by Deborah Christie. And Blood Promise is one of the books included in the Rafflecopter. So if you would like to enter for a chance to win a Kindle Fire 7 preloaded with awesome dystopian reads, including Blood Promise, don't forget to follow the link. I actually am using two devices for this at Russell Reads today. We're very fancy. So here is the blurb from Blood Promise. The Angel of Harmony is about to become a warrior of destruction. It's been 67 years since a spell gone wrong devastated the planet. All that is left of humanity exists in the demon-ruled, sinking ruins of what was once New York and New Jersey, home to the fallen Charmaine. Now, by the grace of God, she has been given the chance to save her world and her angelic standing. All she needs to do is work with a deplorable witch and condemn her fallen brother, the Demon Lord, to eternal imprisonment. Charmaine would do anything to earn back her wings, but when she does, who will be there to save her humanity? Ooh. Now, this is a standalone book from the Cursed Angel collection. It's Watchtower 7, but I've been told that you can read them in any order and that you don't need to worry about reading the other books before you read Blood Promise. So, here we go, jumping right in. I'd give my left wing to feel the sun against my cheek one last time. Oh, right. I no longer have my wings. Thanks, brother. Sarcasm swept through my soul like a snake's venom. I sat, perched beside an old building, the larger-than-life name long lost to time. I remembered the name, of course. I remembered everything. I could pluck any memory and pull it to the forefront as easily as I could pull a thread from my tattered jacket. My gaze shifted from the decaying building up to the gloomy, storm-scorched sky, and then over to the beam of light that glistened from the roof of the tallest skyscraper. The only skyscraper. The structure wasn't close. It was, in fact, several hours' long hike across the bridge and up Church Street. But it was its towering height and its brilliant light within the circle's gloom that made it shine like a beacon, a brilliant magnet drawing souls to its doors like a mothman to the flames. No building anywhere near as tall had been left standing after the devastation, and the skyscraper was one of the few structures still powered with electricity. My brother, Zephan, was there, in the shimmering fortress of glass, and I hadn't seen him in decades. Not that I wanted to. See him, that is. We shared the same fallen status, the difference being that he embraced his new role in this dark society. He was the commander-in-chief, emperor, czar, the demon lord in our post-apocalyptic world. He'd come into power through the use of fear, and held his title through destruction, discord, and sin. Humans had not been surprised when demons finally crawled up into the dim light. The world had been primed. Because it had not been through nuclear war, natural disaster, or planetary catastrophe that the civilized world met its end. Doomsday came to pass thanks to the holy, destructive force known as magic. The resulting world was one in which I never wanted to deem acceptable. One I had prayed every day would be saved, that I would be saved. For there had been a time when I found comfort and joy in the company of my brothers and sisters, a time when I used my gift often and freely. The time before my fall, almost 800 years ago, a mere flap of a wing in flight across the ages. Now in this new cursed world, I was simply waiting. For what, I could not say. Forgiveness, maybe? With a firm grip on my bag, I jumped off the side wall and into the busted sidewalk. Mud and water squished beneath my boots. The streets, once crowded with people and vehicles, were now washed in sludge. Red sludge, the result of the rising water table and red tide. The high salt content made the water undrinkable, just as the algal bloom made the fish inedible and the air mildly toxic. This was our daily curse, the destruction wrought by darkness and its ensuing discord. The avenue upon which I made my way was busy with street vendors and traders, the reason I'd come here. In this new world, this was the closest thing to a market. Most blocks were quiet, aside from the occasional brawl, or worse. Since the devastation 67 years ago, living conditions had turned the surviving people into cockroaches, scurrying from sight, hiding in the shadows, and from social interaction. In my timeless existence, I'd been privy to many plagues set upon men. The one we all now lived in was the most demoralizing to which I'd played witness. The fact that I'd been personally here to participate, I'm sure, had no effect on my judgment. I crossed the street My sights set on the busiest of all traders, the fishermen. A nasty side effect of my condition was that I needed to eat. Not as often as humans, but my body needed substance at least once a week. The freshest catch hung from the post wedged deep into the muck and busted asphalt. Beyond, in an old converted steakhouse, the team of fishermen stockpiled an assortment of items. One might find day-old fish, shellfish, grassweed, rat meat, and on occasion a few canned goods. Although the appearances of luxury items such as canned food were becoming fewer and far between, most supplies had been exhausted years prior. The fishermen were supposed to fish far beyond the reach of the red tide. It was their trade and their reputation, but ultimately no one had proof as to where the fishermen set anchor. The hungry had to deal with faith and hope. Faith that the fishermen were safe to faith that the fish were safe to eat. Not the fishermen, that would be a different story. Going back a little bit, faith that the fish were safe to eat, and hope that their next meal wouldn't kill them. 67 years of living in this dying world had created countless challenges. Feeding a family had to be near the top of the list. Thankfully, my needs were simple. Charm, let me get the fish for you. From out of nowhere, Casper appeared at my side. A full 48 inches tall and 55 pounds with appropriate environmental gear, he was a master of stealth. They'll never see me. I'm a ghost. That's what my granddad said. A conniving grin brightened his childish features. Then he pinned his scarf back across his face and dropped his goggles into place. Casper and his family lived in the same building as I did. The boy had been shadowing me since he was 6. It had been 4 years now, and I'd grown accustomed to his company. He called me Charm, short for my God-given name, Charmaine. It's possible he saw me as more relatable than some, given that I looked eternally young. My outward appearance had always been that of a 16 or 17-year-old, something I'd come to accept as both a blessing and a curse. Bright and adventurous, Casper lacked the fear of dangers that could await him around any corner on any street. His hair was wild and thick with dust and dried mud. I didn't mind. I'd seen humans in every possible condition. The smell of their sweat, their tears, their fears, none of it was new to me. I dropped my hand onto his head and ruffled the dark, shaggy mane. There's no need, Casper. I can handle this just fine. He peered up at me and frowned, disappointment evident in the wrinkles across his forehead. Are you sure? Quite, I winked. Feet away from the daily catch display, wide, burly men stood blocking our passage. Trade, the taller of the two asked, looking directly at me. Noticing that Casper was gone, I nodded to the man and pulled the bag off my shoulder. Casper, no doubt, was off nicking food and unseen supplies. As much as I preferred the boy play by the rules for fear of his life, there wasn't much I could do. Free will and all, that was God's idea. Well, the man prompted. I grinned, the thought of Casper's covert move still running through my mind, and pulled a small mason jar from my bag. The liquid inside sloshed like the angry sea, then settled into a soft calm. What is that? He leaned forward and stared at the rich crimson drink held within the glass. I could have told him the truth. It was some of the finest wine the Canaanites had had to offer, but given that it was over a century and a half before the birth of Christ, I highly doubted he would believe me. Instead, I unscrewed the lid and allowed him a whiff. Compared to the smell of fish and body odor permeating the air, he wasn't going to get a better offer today. His eyes widened and back straightened. Mark was his name. I'd known that since the first day I'd met him. Given my status, I tried to live inconspicuously, and so I hoped he didn't remember me with all the other hungry mouths he saw day after day. I didn't visit nearly as often as most, and I always made a point to conceal my identity, pulling my hood far enough over to hide my face in the shadows. My long silvery locks were always pulled back and tucked out of sight. In a different life, Mark could have been a bodyguard or a gladiator. Here, he was a fisherman. And that has been our excerpt from Blood Promise. Don't forget to follow the link and enter the Rafflecopter, and we will see you next time on Our Russell Reads. Bye-bye.